I'll put this video together to help you to facilitate a Leaving Life workshop at home. I can't come out and run one at the moment, unfortunately, so I'm putting this together to show you how to run a Leaving Life workshop. What I would suggest is that you have one-to-one support for each attendee, maybe 1 to 2 at the most, but you're going to be picking up lots of information that you don't want to miss. So I would suggest that one attendee has one support worker, and you sit round a table. If you're not having to sit 2 meters apart, that would be really difficult. If you're able to still sit round the table together, that's ideal. Make sure it's distraction free, so no television on, put the phones somewhere else, and really concentrate this time to gather this really important information. So this is my second attempt at videoing this. I wanted to do it from scratch, but it failed the first time, so I was standing in front of the camera for half an hour and it wasn't filming me, so it just filmed the very beginning. So first of all, what you need to have up is a big sheet of paper. It has to be big enough so that a volunteer can stand up against it like this and be drawn around. So that's what happened earlier when I thought I was filming, but it wasn't. So here is my silhouette. My assistant drew around me. Okay. So the first session is called What Makes Me Me? So we're thinking about our personality, our interests, the things we're into. You know, when others think of us, they think, oh, you know, Barbie, she's so artistic, which I'm not, but anyway. So you'll have prepared before you set up some pictures, and I'm sending you a pack. I'm emailing you a pack, and it will tell you exactly what to do. But I thought I'd film myself because sometimes it's easier when you see it. So what you're going to have is a selection of pictures. You can get them from Google Images or out of magazines. Collect magazines and cut some pictures out. And think about the people who are coming. I always think about that. I sort of look up about them and I make sure I've got pictures that suit them a bit. Otherwise I don't want them, you know, hunting through pictures and none of them are relevant. So you'd have pictures in here which represent, so if someone's really smiling, happy smiley, for example, they'd choose the smiley face. And what makes me me, the pictures go on the inside of the silhouette. What makes me me? So I've got these ones like somebody who loves Elvis, somebody who likes laughing, somebody who loves handbags, somebody who likes being out in the sun. So I'll put this one up. Somebody who's really smiley. What else have we got in here? Okay, so it might be somebody whose faith is very important to them. They have all different religion symbols. One more. What should we have? Someone who likes drawing a lot. Something like that. Various things. You know your people. You can make sure you've got some pictures that suit them. So that goes in the middle. When they've done that bit, then you can say, oh, Bob, why did you choose that? And people talk about why they've chosen the pictures that represent them. Get some in the chatty discussion mood. Okay, and then after that we'll move on to the one-page profile. So this has 3 columns, and we wanted to have this as part of the workshop because, well, before I go on, if you haven't got a picture that represents you or represents what the person wants, have some nice post-it notes, write on and stick the post-it note up. Later on you can swap it for a photo or something. So anyway, yeah, the one-page profile says what's important to the person, how best to support them and how they'd like to be thought of. And what we want you to think about is, what's a good day? A normal good day, not an extraordinary day where you're going somewhere amazing, but a normal day. So you know what a normal day is like. Think about yourself. So you've got up on time, you've got petrol in your car, there's no traffic, you get a parking space at work, you don't have an argument at home before you go to work, you're able to use the toilet, you don't have to wait for the toilet, or you haven't run out of toothpaste, or you've run out of toilet roll. Yeah, so an ordinary good day, think about that. So you can help the person you're sitting next to. Write down what they say is a good day for them, a good normal day. Because should someone get really ill, the whole point of these workshops is we're thinking about people if they get really ill. And that, you know, it's known that if you can keep the days as normal as possible while people are ill, it helps them. And so we're thinking about what we could do to help that person should they get really ill, to keep the day as normal as possible. So those things can be written there. And then we're going to think about how to support someone to have a good normal day. So it might be things like not having such a noisy environment, not having people all talking at once, not having people shouting, or it could be not having people interrupting you, or it could be making sure that someone can go out in the garden and get some fresh air, or have some nice music on things like that. And in the pack, I'm sending you, emailing you a pack of how to do the Leave a Laugh workshop at home. I've got my own one of this, so you can see my ideas about me, and then that will hopefully trigger some ideas when you're helping your person. And then when they finish doing that, they can hold it up and talk about it. What I do is I gather these up. When I do a workshop, I gather these up and I type it, and I take a photo of the person and I put their photo in the middle and then laminate it, and they like to have this. It's, you know, it's a good piece of information. It's so personal to them. Okay, so moving on from the one-page profile, I mean, each section you want to take about 10-15 minutes. So now we're going to think about what support people need to stay being themselves. Like, we all need people, we all need support from someone. It can be our family, it can be our carers, it can be the hospital, it can be doctors, it can be nurses, it can be faith leaders, things like that. So you'll have another bag, little pouch of pre-prepared pictures, which again, you might have thought about the people that are going to be at the workshop, which is going to be, at the moment, it's going to be people who live there. So you'll have them ready in the middle of the table, and then around the outside of the silhouette, you'd be sticking up things that help people to be who they are. So I've got things like the GP, Hertfordshire County Council, this was family, a nurse, just others doing activities. That's a day centre picture. I mean, usually the day centre is massively important, isn't it? So if you can replicate day centre at home, that's great. I mean, when I send you the pack, I'll have, there's pictures ready that you could cut out and use during the workshop. But you can choose on Google pictures or photo symbols or something like that. And then, so you've got my purple folder there as well. Things around, things that people need to stay being themselves. And then when they've done that, they can talk about them, stand up to the group, and or you can talk for them, talk to the group about the things that they need to be themselves. It's just, it gets that chat going. It helps people to feel this is a really good person-centred piece of work. Helps people feel really valued. Again, use post-it notes if you haven't got the photos that they that represent what they're saying. So following on from that, there's a 15-20 minute YouTube video, and I've put the link in the pack on the agenda. This was made by an organisation called Change, and it's called We're Living Well But Dying Matters, and it's people with learning disabilities from the north of England who are talking about end of life, what their wishes would be, how they'd like to be remembered. Slightly different from the Leaving Life workshop because it's more about funerals and things like that, whereas of course as nurses we want to be talking about people's wishes should they become really ill and you know, possibly heading towards the end of their life, but we'd like to gather their wishes should they become really ill. So if you've got an iPad or a laptop or a television that plays YouTube, then gather people around so they can see and hear this video. Sometimes that might talk about funerals, and that might bring up some things in people that talk about, oh, my auntie died, or when my dad died, and things like that. Please don't rush people on if they need to talk about those feelings. Allow time and room for those feelings to be expressed, because in the group it just feels so much more shared, and people can relate to that, and people who haven't felt that they can talk about that before might feel that they can talk about it now. And it's important that that isn't pushed aside, because it's good to use the actual words. It's good to use death as a word. It's good to use die, because there's loads of words that we use to describe when someone's died or to describe death, and it's very confusing to use all these words because we're trying to make it less harsh. But it's important that people with learning disabilities know what death means and what it means to die, and this is a chance to make sure that those words are used. After this is probably after watching the DVD or the video clip, we're moving on to the hardest part of the workshop, which is to talk about do not resuscitate orders, do not resuscitate by cardiopulmonary resuscitation, sometimes known as DNR CPR, and I'm sure you've come across these. And these are put in place following a medical decision and a discussion with the person. If they lack capacity, then with the family or the network of support around that person. So they're never put in place. No DNR is going to be put in place because of this workshop. But I think it's really important that we talk about what a DNR CPR is. So that I've put a link into the St John's Ambulance CPR, very short video, just shows you the CPR action so that people know what you're talking about. And then there'll be some easy read on DNRs in the pack. So have a sensitive discussion in this time about that, so people can ask questions, and also to talk about being kept alive by a machine. People might have strong views about that, and people might not have any views at all. People might have never even thought of it because no one's ever talked to them about it before. So you know, sensitively talk about that. The way I would go into that would be I'd talk about myself, what I would want, because that's probably the best way I can talk about DNRs and CPR, and yeah, so just allow some room for that in case it causes upset. But that would be the hardest part of the workshop, and then it will move on to I'm going to say nicer but more enjoyable sections. So yeah, just to say at this point that before the workshop takes place, there's letters to family that are in the pack that you can send out, because some families might have strong views about discussing those things, but we must remember that it's the actual individual's choice. If they want to talk about it and they want to take part in the workshop and they want to talk about all of the workshop, then that's their choice to make, and that should be honoured. Families can be reassured but the letter will talk about what goes on at the workshop, so that's in the pack. So following on from the 2 YouTube clips and the discussion is what we call the traffic light questionnaire. For that you'll need red, yellow and green cards. I've included these because where people might struggle with, might have some non-verbal people or people who just don't want to speak because they're shy, they can hold up the cards. I always suggest that everyone gets 3 cards each, even the workers, even the supporters, because they can join in as well. It's good for everybody to join in. So yes is green, no is red, and yellow is I'm not sure, I need help. So everybody gets those. I think I made these out of dividers, but if you don't want to buy, so you know those file dividers you get with all different colours, so I made those out of that. So the questions, there's about 13 of them. Outside of this current crisis, I would ask what's important to people, but because of the current crisis and the need to gather this information quite urgently, unfortunately, I've made the questions more direct. So the questions are going to need yes or no answers, or I'm not sure. But the kind of things I've included is, you know, should I become really, really ill? If I could be cared for at home, would I prefer to be cared for at home? Or would I prefer to be cared for at hospital, or would I prefer to be cared for at hospice? Although hospice is, you can't, you know, go to be cared for at hospice just like that, but it's good to bring a hospice up if people know what hospice is. Also the questionnaire includes things like, would I want to know what was happening should I become really ill? And would I want to know if I was dying? That's really important because a lot of people don't tell people they're dying, and some people want to know if they're dying. I do ask questions about being cremated or buried, and I ask about is it, you know, do I want support if I'm anxious? So there's 13 questions there. Again, it's in the pack. Everything's in the pack. So that's a kind of a one-to-one. We ask the questions to everybody, and then they hold up the card, and then the helper is filling in the answers. We're really starting to gather information now, so we need our end-of-life plan handy. This is the one we like to use, which is called What If? Celebrating My Life. It's really good, and it's got free. It's got pages where you can free type, or you know, write in details, anything that comes up that you think might be important. You can write it in the boxes there. Things like my final days, important things to know. As you'll see, it's just got lots of planning pages and, you know, all about me. Where's the one I'm looking for, which is really good? How I would like to be remembered, messages to those I love. So that is that might need to be filled in another time, but it's got lots of information. Your organisation might have its own end-of-life plan. You use that. So you want to be transferring the information you've collected here into there, or however you want to do it. But the questionnaire, the traffic light questionnaire, will give you quite a lot of answers. So it's a good way to gather the information. And it's so important to do it one-to-one, because people will come out with stuff unexpectedly, and you can jot it straight down into their plan. So that is that section. I'll give that a good 20 minutes to do. In the programme for the workshop, I've done suggested times, how long to spend on each section. But it's up to you. We're all stuck at home at the moment, so you could take as long as you like over it. But you know, don't speed it along. People need to attend for the whole workshop, because if they just come for a bit of it, They just come for the difficult bit and they miss the nice part. Then that's no good. You need people to come from the start to the end, and they can take little breaks if they need a little breather. So after the traffic light quiz, we and the completion of this, I mean, in the usual workshop I'd say start it and then I'd get them to write down or to tell somebody who they want to finish it with, but in the current climate, in the current crisis, I think we should get it finished at the workshop, really, as much as you possibly can. So to end the workshop, we have the best part, which everyone really likes to do, which is the bucket list. So you'll have prepared a bucket, as much as that looks like a bucket. I don't know if you're going to be able to get stuff off Hobbycraft online or something, or if you've got stuff knocking about. I mean, out of this big sheet of black, I've folded it twice and I can get 4 buckets. Don't have to be black, it can be another colour, another bucket-like colour. If they want a pink bucket, but it needs to be card, because it needs to be quite sturdy. With the black, I have nice metallic pens, because it comes up on the black. But obviously, use what you've got, or I don't know what your budget's like to order stuff. So you've got your bucket. So as with the other sections, you've got prepared pictures of things that people might like to do before they die. So here I was in a bit of a dilemma because everybody's stuck at home and they can't go out. So I've sent you a list of stuff that people can do at home, things they might like to do that they can achieve at home. Online there's loads of like virtual tours. There's a virtual Disneyland tour, the virtual Disneyland ride. There's a virtual Harry Potter thing. There's virtual tours of London, Edinburgh. There's things like sing along to your favourite West End show songs. There's all kinds of things. Even just getting onto Skype or Zoom or FaceTime, that might be something that they would like to do, and get used to using a iPad or getting used to using something electronic or the computer. So I've written you a long list of ideas. So for example, say somebody wanted to learn to knit, get that picture, stick it on there. Maybe they like something like the Lion King. There's a Lion King, you know, they had Jesus Christ Superstar stage show online the other day, things like that. What else have we got? What about dyeing your hair? They might want to dye their hair purple or something. Oh, how about having a makeover? You could do that. Have a makeover, have a spa, a pamper session, a pamper day. I'm sure you've thought of these things already. What else? I don't know. They might want to learn a few foreign language words. I don't know, there's lots of different things they might want to do. So they choose that, stick it on their bucket, give that a good bit of time for them to get that done, and then when everyone's finished they can hold up their bucket and talk about their bucket list. You could stick to what they can do at home, or you could do a bucket list for, you know, they're looking forward to after we're all allowed out again, and they can do that on there. It's up to you, whatever you think's best for your people, because everyone's different. So that's that done, and I like to take photos of people holding their buckets up. There's a certificate, of course, because everybody loves a certificate. Mine's horrible in black and white, but I'll send you that and print it off in colour. You can write their name, what date they attended, and sign it and do like a presentation for attending the workshop. Again, nice photos. If you do get photos and they've given permission, their consent, that'd be lovely. I'd love to see some of them. So I've got a list on the programme of all the stuff you need, what you need, how long it takes, what ideas along the side. So you need Pritt sticks, pens, marker pen, post-it notes, scissors maybe. I don't know if you need scissors. If you're prepared, you don't need scissors. Your end of life plan, your print offs. Yeah. And I hope you managed to do one. And you can contact me, barbara.sayers@hertfordshire.gov.uk or 01442 454 242 if you've got any queries or questions about running a workshop. But I hope you do, and I hope everyone is well and safe, and thank you for watching.